What's up, everybody? This is the THC Doctor coming at you with another informational sesh. For today's episode, we're diving deep into a potential game changer for the Ohio cannabis community, the proposed language to put adult use legalization on the ballot. As many of you Buckeye State smokers already know, a group called the Coalition to Regulate Marijuana Like Alcohol has been working hard to bring recreational reform to Ohio. Recently, their citizen initiative collected enough signatures to trigger a legislative review process. If approved as is, or passed by voters, this language would enact Chapter 3780 and establish regulations for a new recreational market in our state. Rather than just sharing the highlights, I wanted to do a deep dive analysis of what's actually written in this proposed statute. We'll take a look at not just cultivation and sales rules, but crucial social equity provisions, expungement language, and how local control may work. My goal is to provide my fellow cannabis professionals and enthusiasts with an informed understanding of what this proposal could mean. This is an important topic that could shape the industry in our region for years to come. So stay tuned and get ready to learn. This is about to be one educational and engaging sesh you don't want to miss. Let's do this. All right, so as many of you likely know, this proposed ballot initiative would be known as Issue 2 if placed on the 2023 statewide ballot, titled "To Commercialize, Regulate, Legalize, and Tax the Adult Use of Cannabis." This proposed law aims to establish a comprehensive regulatory framework for a recreational cannabis program here in Ohio. Specifically, if approved, it would enact Chapter 3780 of the Ohio Revised Code. This chapter would define key terms like adult use cannabis and create a new division of cannabis control within the Department of Commerce. This division would be responsible for regulating various aspects of the new industry, including licensing cultivators, processors, testing labs, and other licensees. Perhaps most importantly, the proposed law looks to legalize and regulate activities like the cultivation, processing, retail sale, personal possession, and home cultivation of cannabis by those 21 and over. It would allow for commercial production, manufacturing, and retail sale of recreational cannabis products to the adult population. Voters would be weighing in on a yes or no vote to adopt the regulations outlined in Chapter 3780. As we'll explore in more depth, this chapter lays out rules for things like licensing, taxation, compliance procedures, and other operational aspects of a legal adult use market. So in essence, Ohioans would be deciding whether to opt into a regulated commercial cannabis program or maintain the current prohibition-era policies. All right, friends, let's dive a little deeper into these important social equity provisions. As many of you know, the war on drugs era hit marginalized groups the hardest through over-policing and disproportionate arrests. This proposal aims to help remedy some of those historic injustices. First up, it creates additional protections against discrimination for folks participating in the legal cannabis industry. This is huge. It means you won't risk losing your job or home just for smoking on your day off. Discrimination has no place in a regulated market. Now here's where things get really interesting. It establishes a cannabis social equity and jobs program. Through this, the development department will certify equity applicants, giving preference to people like racial minorities, those with disabilities, or from long-term unemployed areas. Makes sense, right? Gotta make room at the table. So what qualifies as a social disadvantage needing remedy? Membership in an ethnic or racial group, disability status, gender, or residing in a high unemployment community all count. Comprehensive criteria to truly foster an inclusive industry. It also safeguards sensitive consumer data like purchase records, and gets even better. This proposal prohibits local governments from limiting private home grows or restricting authorized activities without good cause. No more bans just because. Plus, financial institutions won't face criminal liability for serving licensed cannabis businesses. Overall, a very progressive framework focused on restorative justice through equity. I'm loving these inclusive measures, really addressing the roots of the issue. But I do have some reservations on something else. All right, friends, before we dive into more details, I want to pause to explain something important about the process behind this proposed law. As an initiated statute, there are some key differences compared to if it was seeking to amend the Ohio Constitution. So in many states, efforts to legalize cannabis take the form of a constitutional amendment that voters directly approve or reject. This makes the policy very difficult to change going forward without another vote of the people. However, in Ohio, we have the option of initiated statutes. With an initiated statute, rather than directly modifying the state constitution, activists are seeking to enact new legislation through a citizens' ballot initiative process. This puts the proposed changes in the form of new laws and statutes that can be modified further down the road if needed, without reconvening voters. The trade-off is that with an initiated statute, if it goes to voters and passes, Ohio legislators actually have the ability to amend or repeal parts of it later on through regular legislation. However, rejecting it outright would still require a majority no vote next November. So in summary, while it provides less permanence than a constitutional measure, the initiated statute route allows for adaptability and improvements to be made gradually based on how the market evolves. It's an important nuance to this process here in Ohio. All right, folks, we're coming to the end of our dive, but let's take a look at some of the societal and health benefits of Issue 2. One of the provisions of Issue 2 is the requirement for the division to collaborate with the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services. This collaboration aims to create a program dedicated to cannabis addiction services. It reflects Ohio's commitment to addressing potential health concerns associated with adult use cannabis responsibly. This proposal goes a step further by establishing 5 funds within the state treasury. Each fund serves a specific purpose: the Adult Use Tax Fund. This fund is designed to manage tax revenue generated from the sale of adult use cannabis. The Cannabis Social Equity and Jobs Fund. It's a fund aimed at supporting equity and job opportunities within the adult use cannabis industry. The Host Community Cannabis Fund. This fund benefits local communities that host cannabis facilities. The Substance Abuse and Addiction Fund. This fund is dedicated to addressing substance abuse and addiction-related issues, reinforcing Ohio's commitment to public health. The Division of Cannabis Control and Tax Commissioner Fund. Lastly, this fund supports the administration and oversight of the adult use cannabis industry. Now let's talk about taxation. In addition to regular sales taxes, Issue 2 imposes a 10% tax on the sale of adult use cannabis by dispensaries. It's a measure that aims to generate revenue to support various aspects of this initiative. The collected revenue from this 10% tax will be distributed as follows. 36% goes to the Cannabis Social Equity and Jobs Fund, fostering equitable opportunities in the industry. Another 36% is allocated to the Host Community Cannabis Facilities Fund, benefiting the local communities that house these facilities. 25% is directed to the Substance Abuse and Addiction Fund, underlining Ohio's commitment to addressing addiction-related issues. Lastly, 3% goes to the Division of Cannabis Control and Tax Commissioner Fund, supporting the administration and oversight of the industry. And finally, the timeline. If passed by Ohio's voters, this law will come into effect 30 days after the election. It signifies that the impact of this decision will be felt relatively quickly, affecting Ohioans and the state's approach to adult use cannabis. As we conclude our journey through Issue 2, remember that this isn't just about legalization. It's about responsible regulation, equity, public health, and financial management. Ohioans will cast their votes, and the outcome will shape the future landscape of adult use cannabis in the Buckeye State. Thank you for joining us on this exploration. It's been a pleasure to guide you through the intricacies of this proposal. We'll continue to keep a close eye on the developments as the destiny of Ohio's cannabis landscape unfolds.